What's going on, guys? It's Joe. Before this video starts, just wanted to come on here really quickly and remind you that this Tuesday, April 23rd, Amy and I will be live right here on the YouTube channel for the War of the Spark preview stream. We have been sponsored by Wizards of the Coast with a free account. We thank Wizards for that opportunity, but come on down to this channel for that. Make sure that you are subscribed and that you have notifications on so that you find out exactly when we're going live. You can also check us out on Twitter at Geek4AllYT to find out when that happens. But we are going to be playing sealed all day, as much as we can. Last time we did 9.5 hours. We're going to do as much as we possibly can. So without further ado, please enjoy the video and we will see you, hopefully, for that stream on Tuesday. What's going on, guys? This is Joe.
And Amy.
And I'm not on camera, but Amy is, because with War of the Spark, I'm not exactly sure when we're going to release this video, so this may be from a long time ago, or it may be from very recently, but with War of the Spark, Wizards of the Coast did something very interesting, in that they released the cards in a narrative format. So they didn't release the cards based on showing a certain number of mythics each day or a certain number of rares each day. They released the cards based on how they could tell a story. And I thought that was really cool. And I am the person who handles the Geek for All Twitter. And so I was on Twitter. I've been on Twitter all day during this preview season, looking at all the different cards, and then I would come home and I would share that information with Amy. But today is Thursday. In fact, it is Thursday, April 18th, to be specific, so I can date this for all of you. And that means that today was the last day of previews. A lot of very talented content creators, very impressive content creators, got some really cool preview cards to show all of you from Wizards of the Coast. And in doing so, they helped to tell a story. Now, Amy, you've seen a lot of the preview cards, if not all of them, before today. I mean, we've been keeping up on the stuff.
Okay.
What, if anything, have you thought of it so far, if you've thought of it so far?
I mean, for the most part, everything I've seen looks pretty awesome, so...
But in terms of the story, I mean, we've seen, in the trailer, we saw Dak Faden die. We know from the cards that Domri is dying and or having his spark taken. By the way, if this needs to be said, if you were trying to stay away from War of the Spark spoilers, these can only be cards that have been officially spoiled, because all of the cards have been officially spoiled. So if for whatever reason you don't want to know story beats, this is probably not the video for you. Just an FYI.
Sorry about it.
But we are only talking about things that have been officially previewed. No spoilers, no leaks here, because that's just, we're only working off of the previews, but the previews are all completed, so...
They're already spoiled.
Correct. So, that being said, I'm going to walk Amy through the final day of previews, at least the kind of the more narrative-heavy beats. There were some, like, random commons that were shown that maybe I'll show her later that don't need to be on camera, because they're not significant for the story, but for us to show off our...
Hashtag Worthless Pride.
I wanted to be able to show all of you this live example. Wizards of the Coast has been giving, speaking of giving things away, they've been giving trailers away to their to some creators as well, and letting them give their reactions. Well, we were not lucky enough to have received that opportunity, so we're going to make our own. And I'm going to give you Amy's reactions to the cards that have been revealed today. All that I have told Amy is that I have warned her that this will not all be entirely fun. Just FYI. But we're going to start, and please feel free on your phone or your computer, etc., to pull up the images of these cards to see for yourself if you have not seen them already. But the first card we're going to look at is Trusted Pegasus.
Gorgeous art.
Yes, so Trusted Pegasus depicts Gideon with this Pegasus. I'm not necessarily going to say what the card does, because unless it's important to the story or if there's no flavor text, but this is a creature card, and...
Thank you for telling me that was Gideon, because I couldn't really tell that. It just looked like honestly, it looked like a female warrior.
Oh, okay. Well, I will zoom in after I've read the flavor text, just so that Amy can see the art a little bit better. But the flavor text says, "Would you give your life to save this world?" Gideon murmured. The Pegasus snorted, and spread wide its mighty wings. And so there's Gideon with that trusted Pegasus. So that's the first card, the first part of this little story, Trusted Pegasus. Then we see God Eternal Oketra was previewed today.
Yes.
So we had already seen Bantu, we had already seen Kefnet, we had already seen Ronus,
Yeah.
and we had already seen the Boar God. I'm not even going to try because I haven't memorized his name yet, but we saw the Boar God as well. So this completes the God cycle, the zombie God cycle, with Oketra. She has her typical bow back again, but she is Lazotep coated. She is a zombie god, a god eternal. She does not have flavor text, but she does have double strike. And sure, for this I will give you the ability. She has the ability, whenever you cast a creature spell, you also get to create a 4/4 black zombie warrior creature token with vigilance.
Wow.
Which is crazy. So anytime you get a creature, you also get a 4/4 black zombie. And she's a 3/6 with double strike for 5. Absolutely, I mean, the card's insane, the card's incredible. That's not why we're talking about it, but realize that that card was previewed, and because of
Can
that...
you zoom in on her
Oh,
picture?
sure, I would be happy to do that.
I'm still having issues seeing it.
It's not perfect, it's a little pixely when you zoom in, but she doesn't have the full mask anymore, and her ears are kind of gone. Her ears only kind of exist in that little floaty golden halo thing that's around her head now. So otherwise she's just like a little circular
it also
blue
looks
Lazotep
like
skull.
half of her stomach is missing.
Well, yeah, she was killed.
Yeah,
so
but...
she's a zombie.
No, I know, but...
Yeah.
Okay.
She's just kind of barely together, kind of. But I don't think that stops her in any way from, being impressive or, like, living or whatever. Because she has the same ability the other gods have, is that if they die or are put into exile from the battlefield, you put it into your library third from the top, or its owner's library, third from the top. So,
okay.
So after Oketra, and now we've seen the Trusty Pegasus and Oketra, let's put them together. Divine Arrow. Ravnica's defenders watched in horror as Oketra's shot pierced the body of the Pegasus. Gideon tumbled through the air, black blade in hand.
Oh man, so he was riding the Pegasus.
Correct. That's why they showed him with the Pegasus saying, are you willing to die to protect this place or whatever.
I thought he was just asking the Pegasus that and was thinking that like the Pegasus would provide some sort of help in the air, but not necessarily carrying Gideon with the black blade.
Yeah, no. Gideon was going to ride that Pegasus to Nicol Bolas's citadel, and this is what happened to the Pegasus. So now Gideon is falling out of the sky, holding the black blade. Mm-hmm. So this, I believe...
And this Pegasus is like breathing out this mist of glowing energy,
which I think is because of the arrow. Yeah,
the arrow.
Yeah. Which is awesome, but also really sad. That poor Pegasus.
Yes.
And it looks like the arrow it looks like it might have gone in between the armor plates that this Pegasus is wearing, but because, Oketra is a pretty skilled archer.
And a god.
Correct.
So that helps.
Correct. So, this is a thing. So, now Gideon is falling, and something happens, and I'm not going to show you that. I'm going to show you something that we've seen already, technically.
Okay.
That's Gideon Blackblade.
Right.
We saw Gideon Blackblade yesterday, and I referenced, or I thought to myself when I looked at this, God, those wings behind him are weird. Why are those wings behind him? Because presumably here he's flying or falling towards Nicol Bolas with the Blackblade in hand. That's kind of what he does. So, whose wings are those? So, I would never, ever have guessed this. It's a very cool little include. Do you have any kind of a guess as to what wings those are or who they're from? Because they're not Ugin wings. They're not Nicol Bolas wings, right? They're not angel wings.
But they don't look like the Pegasus wings.
Correct. They are not the Pegasus
They're
wings.
almost sort of bat-like. Or like a fallen angel kind of look.
What's another name for a fallen angel?
Demon?
You mean like Rakdos? So, this is unlikely aid. Correct. This is Gideon riding Rakdos into battle. And
That's badass.
And the flavor text says, "No one will ever ride me again, Gideon. Expect no further favors. Rakdos."
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
It's really awesome. So those wings behind Gideon Blackblade were Rakdos's wings.
That is cool.
Right. So I did it a little out of order, right? Because he rides Rakdos, then jumps off of Rakdos where you see Gideon Blackblade, but I wanted to show you the wings and talk about that for a second.
Can you zoom in on that picture now?
Gladly. Yeah.
Wow. That face. Man.
Yeah.
Damn.
And Gideon's indestructible or whatever you want to call it. So he's sitting in the fire that is Rakdos's hair or headpiece or whatever you want to call it. That was really awesome to see today. I think that's hilarious and badass, like you said. So then we see, I think upcoming are some cards that we've seen already, but it continues this story. You see Desperate Lunge now. So we talked about, we saw this already, we talked about this already. The flavor text says, Ravnica held its breath as the hero of the Resistance, their last hope, flew through the sky, his dark sword ready to strike a god. Now, notably, this is from the Gideon Planeswalker deck. This is not from the full set itself, so please be aware of that. But those were, those deck lists and etc. were also fully released today, so still not talking about anything that's not been officially previewed.
Okay.
After Desperate Lunge, we also have seen Tyrant's Scorn, where Gideon is falling, the Black Blade is in pieces, and the flavor text says, "The hero with the magic sword slays the dragon, not this time." Now, I read something very interesting today, and that is that, sure, us here on Earth, we know that the knight fights the dragon, right? That's just fantasy trope 101.
Right.
The knight on a horse or whatever with his sword goes in and tries to slay tries to slay the dragon.
Yeah.
That's not what Nicol Bolas is talking about. Tetsuo Umizawa was a warrior or a hero with a magic sword who slayed Nicol Bolas. It happened once before. Bolas was not going to let it happen again. And so that's what he's referencing here. I did not realize that. I believe that shout out goes to Vorthos J from the Vorthos cast for pointing that out. I thought that was amazing and fascinating. So thank you, Jay, first of all, for that. Very, very good insight that I would not have... Maybe eventually I would have put it together, but yeah, it's much cooler. So you have Tyrant's Scorn, and Gideon falls now after having lunged at Bolas with the Black Blade and all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. So now back to stuff that we have not already seen. Well, I guess this would be the meanwhile. I mentioned the trailer for this set. Hopefully everyone has seen the trailer for this set because, my God.
It's incredible. So if you haven't, please go do that now.
Absolutely amazing. And in that trailer, we see Liliana. And we see Liliana turning the Eternals on Nicol Bolas, whereas she had been controlling them for Nicol Bolas because of the contract and all those other things. She turns the Eternals on Nicol Bolas. And Bolas gets very upset and kind of seems to call on the contract that's etched into her skin and begins to disintegrate her. So to depict that, we have the price of betrayal. Uncommon sorcery, gorgeous art, very, very reminiscent of the trailer. An amazing job on both sides, both on the trailer side and on this art, by Ryan Yee, apparently. And the flavor text says, the moment Liliana defied Nicol Bolas, her contract was broken and her life was forfeit. But she was free to choose her fate, and she decided it was worth the price.
Interesting.
So, for you, Amy, as you have requested, I will zoom in on the art for you. It is very much what we saw in the trailer. I would say it's nothing different than what we saw in the trailer.
Yeah.
It is her flaking away as, you know, as she is...
As she approaches Jean Grey. She's Wolverine.
Wow. Very old school references prior to the Dark Phoenix movie coming out in a few months that does not include, at least as far as we know, does not include Wolverine. In fact, from the trailer, it looks like Cyclops will be the one having that moment in this movie. But anyway, back to Magic the Gathering and moving away from Marvel.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. That's not your fault. I would have made the same reference.
Good.
So that happens. Now, Liliana is dying.
Right.
Right? And the trailer showed her dying, and this card shows her dying. Is she dying?
I don't know. Is she?
Well, so there's been a lot of speculation, right, in the Magic community leading up to this set of who dies. And again, we talked about Dak and we talked about Domri, and not to disrespect either of them, but they are not the big names that people have been saying would die during this fight with Nicol Bolas.
Okay.
So, my question to you is, do you recall, because we can go back and look at JaARs and etc. in the past, but who did you say, or who have you been saying you thought was going to die to Nicol Bolas here?
Oh, I think I predicted Veraska.
Okay. Alright. So, this next card is going to show you the big death from War of the Spark.
Okay. Ah.
Gideon's sacrifice. So, the flavor text on Gideon's sacrifice. To Liliana's surprise, the cost of betraying Bolas did not fall on her.
That's about right.
And so again, to zoom in on the art, everything that we just saw happening to Liliana is now transferred and is instead happening to Gideon.
Okay.
He saves her and sacrifices himself.
How?
I'm sure we will have to read the book for that.
Okay.
So,
That's a very white aligned thing to do.
correct. Which I will say, my own personal opinion, a lot of people, or not a lot, but I've seen people have a problem with that online.
Mm-hmm.
Not the white aligned part, but just the Gideon sacrificing himself part. Mm-hmm. And I fully agree with you. As a person who would consider himself to be white aligned, this is very white aligned in terms of it's very flavorful for a white mage.
Oh, and it makes perfect sense, considering the arc that they experienced in the story, I shouldn't say recently, but...
Well, I mean, not recently,
recently,
right? Dominaria would be the main one for these two.
Right.
Right? Because it was just the two of them together at that point, after Jace and Chandra and Nissa kind of abandon Liliana because they don't think that her...
And realistically, Liliana saved Gideon's life, so he's
Correct.
just returning the favor.
Correct. And
by dying.
And don't forget, again, for a white planeswalker, for a white mage like Gideon is, he also believes and or knows, depending on, again, we'll have to read the story, but believes and or knows that this sacrifice that he is making will be one to allow the tide to be turned in the correct direction.
Okay.
Right? Gideon, we just saw, he did his best.
Right.
He flew up to Nicol Bolas. He was on Rakdos. He used the Black Blade and failed.
Right.
Liliana, in control of the Eternals, was likely the best bet for it.
Yeah.
Now, my assumption, because of the way that this works, and again, we have to read the story, my assumption for the way that this works is that Gideon satisfies the terms of the contract, meaning that Bolus can't just turn around and go, well, that was nice, he sacrificed himself, I'm still going to kill you. I think he gets Liliana fully out of the contract now by dying for it.
Perhaps.
Which, it's because it's probably like, you know, a soul must be forfeit if this is, you know, if you go back on this contract or whatever. Something to that effect. So, that's my guess. Again, I don't have any inside information, but that's just how I feel. So, following Gideon's sacrifice, we have D. Spark.
Okay.
And I'll read the flavor text and then I will zoom in so you can see the picture because it is important. But it says, Liliana whispered to whatever consciousness Oketra and Bantu had left. You are the gods. He is the usurper. You know what to do.
Nice. Nice.
And so,
Yeah.
the card depicts Oketra ripping the spark from Nicol Bolas's chest, presumably the spark that is giving him his godhood, making him the dragon god, while Bantu holds him back on the other side. And he is being desparked.
Yeah. Very cool.
Now, I'm curious to see your opinion on what happens next, because the next thing that they show, and we've seen cards that lead up to this happening,
Okay.
Prison Realm.
Yeah.
After millennia to craft victory, Bolus had eternity to contemplate defeat. So,
Love it.
so where is he?
The spirit realm.
The meditation plane is what it's called.
Wow,
You're
okay.
right. It's the realm that he and Ugin shared,
Right.
you know, a kinship in.
Meditation,
Right.
spirit, whatever.
Well, and if we zoom in on the art, a couple of things to notice. First of all, he's very small.
Mm-hmm.
He's very meek. He's very meager. What else do you notice? If anything, this is literally your first time.
Well, I see his horns in the background.
Nope.
Which appear to be crumbling.
Nope. That's a good guess, but no.
Okay, so what am I seeing?
You're seeing Ugin's horns in the background. The meditation realm typically showed Bolus's horns because Bolus was the one in control of the meditation realm at the time.
Oh.
That's not Bolus's horns back there. Those are Ugin's. Ugin is in control of that meditation plane now.
Cool.
And, presumably, without his spark, that's where he's trapped now. On the meditation plane, with no one else anywhere around.
Right. He
And-
can't planeswalk because he doesn't have a spark.
Correct. And I believe that Ugin is the only one who has access to that realm. Although, I will say that I believe a lot of people have assumed, based on Narset's art, that she was also on the meditation plane.
Okay.
So it's possible that planeswalkers could go there. I just don't know of any other planeswalkers besides Ugin, Bolus, and possibly Narset.
It might just be
who have
like an
ever been
elder
there.
dragon thing, right?
Well, no,
Narset's
Narset's not.
an elder
No,
dragon.
she's just a human.
dragon.
No.
Oh.
She's a human. She was from Khans of Tarkir, but she's not a dragon.
Oh, okay.
She's like a monk lady.
Yeah, I
kind
was
of a thing.
forgetting who she was.
Yeah. You're thinking of Sarkhan, basically, who can transform into
Oh.
dragons. But the other thing to note is the card that I referenced us knowing about was the card with Ugin, who was talking about having figured out the key to his brother's defeat. Do you remember what it was?
I can't. Oh, yeah, the stone
Which, look at the art.
isn't there.
Correct. It's gone. I don't know where it is, but notably it is not there. So, it, I believe, is called the Gem of Becoming. So, the gem is gone, the stone is gone, the one that's in between his horns, it's gone. We will, again, in the story, I'm sure, we will find out why that was so significant.
Okay.
Now, with all of those things happening, Bolus meets the same end. It's a combination of Azor and Emrakul in terms of what happens to Bolus.
Okay.
Think about it. He is brought low, his spark is removed, he's neutered, so to speak, left on a plane where he can do nothing, where like Azor is left on Useless Island,
Yeah.
and he is trapped there like Emrakul is trapped in the moon. So it's a combination, to me, it's a combination of Azor's fate and Emrakul's fate. But it also leaves the possibility for him to come back at some point in the future because he's not dead. Unlike our good friend Gideon, whom gets another card. Heartwarming redemption.
Okay.
The flavor text says, Kytheon had known war every day of his life. Now he finally knew peace.
Oh.
So, who are these people? Can you tell?
The gods
No.
on Theros?
No. You're close. It is from people from Theros. It's his irregulars
Oh.
who were killed on Theros because of his hubris.
Yeah.
And now he's joining back up with his friends.
Cool.
Seriously, people have been talking about this online all day. Today, Howard Leon, or Lion, did the art for this card. It's every time I look at this card, I want to cry. It is so amazing. It's so cool to see him there with his friends, joining back with loved ones. And I've seen a couple people saying this online. I'm not the first one, and I'm not trying to piggyback on them. I just can also relate to the feelings of really wanting to have that moment with people who have gone already. And hoping beyond hope, hoping beyond reason to have that, not necessarily thinking one way or the other that it's possible, that there are different beliefs, and in no way am I saying that one person's beliefs are more correct or less correct than anyone else's. This is some people's idea of the afterlife. And that is very heartwarming, right? To use the word
redemption.
Right, to use the word from the card. So I loved this art. I thought it was so awesome.
Yeah, and they did an incredible job of capturing Gideon's essence while also making him look completely
Can't think of the word.
not like a soldier.
Yes. Well, again, they specifically say he now knows peace. Yeah. He's just a citizen
he's not
now.
wearing his armor.
Mm-hmm.
He's dressed like the other irregulars are,
Yeah.
as if he's just a citizen of Theros.
And
you know, he still looks like Gideon,
Mm-hmm.
but he has a completely different demeanor now.
well, he looks like... Go ahead, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
He's grateful. He's happy. He's not constantly in this state of trying to fight, trying to figure out what to do next.
Yeah.
He's at peace.
Yeah. And so, and I mean, notice the picture. There are no... The art of Gideon here compared to the art of Gideon on literally every Planeswalker card I've ever seen him on. Any art in general that I've ever seen him on. He's got a smile. Very light, but it's a smile. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever seen that from him before.
No.
His hair is kempt. It's not...
It's like kind of slicked back.
And even his facial hair as well.
Yeah, it's even like...
It's perfect.
It's even like, yeah, sort of trimmed.
Correct.
Yeah.
There are no scratches. There is no dirt.
Right.
There is no blood. There is no nothing. And, looking at this art, I mean, he is and in shape man, but his muscles are in no way the focus.
Right.
Every other picture you've seen of Gideon, almost certainly one of his muscles is like super extremely defined for you
Right.
to see.
And of course also whatever expression he's making of being, angry or,
Bracing himself or
right,
whatever.
yeah, whatever action scene, it's always an action scene. This
Right.
isn't an action scene.
Right.
This is a
Relaxation scene.
yeah.
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 So there's that. There's definitely more to look at. Don't. Obviously, people will see that there's more time in this video, but
I also love the colors that were chosen.
yes.
Because they're very reminiscent of the Last Supper.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that was extremely purposeful.
Fair. I mean,
That palette and the way in which the sort of wrinkles in the fabric even are depicted,
mm-hmm.
it's very Last Supper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a fair point. I like that. And so now, after Heartwarming Redemption, after we find out that our boy Kytheon, our boy Gideon, whatever you want to say, is gone. Let me see, I don't exactly recall. Allison Lures today referenced something that was written back during the Hour of Devastation stories.
Okay.
Which we have read, we have reviewed. I'm not going to point you to them, it's not necessary. We didn't really focus on this particular line, to my knowledge. It was kind of a while ago. But there are two excerpts from the story that I will read to you, and it is the moment where, you will get it in this clip.
Okay.
So, Gideon's heart beat an anxious rhythm in his chest. Hazaret had whispered in his mind the moment he stood between her and JaAR. Her words repeated in his mind, looping over and over with the rhythm of his panicked heart. That was the first picture. Here is the second with another clip. I am neither the first nor the last immortal whom you will cross. Cursed is the man who forgets his own past. For I see your death, Kytheon Iora. You are no god. Gideon shivered at those words and watched the blood of his arm hit the stone below. He looked to the sun passing behind the horn of the immense monument in the distance, and the indestructible man felt only a bleak and empty horror.
I remember that.
So do I. But Hazaret's a god.
Yeah.
She saw him die to Nicobolus. And when I read that line, I thought that it meant, I see your death, you're not a god. I thought that was at a time when he was going to be returning to Theros, that he would be confronted by Erebos or, something like that,
Okay.
and that would be kind of where he would continue to be arrogant if he had not learned enough from, his interactions with the gods there on Amonkhet, because the other thing that was announced today, and I believe that this is what is next here that I have left for us. A little while ago, they came out with signature spellbook JaAR,
Yes.
showing typical cards that would depict magic that JaAR would use in some way, shape, or form. JaAR-aligned cards. Well, today, with the announcement that Gideon is dying in this story, they have announced signature spellbook Gideon.
Nice.
And so, with that, there were some cards that were spoiled that I'd like to show you and talk about a little bit. First being worship. And it shows Gideon worshipping the monument to Oketra. Because when Gideon was on Amonkhet, he developed that relationship with Oketra.
Yes.
And because he had gotten that feeling from being in her presence, and thought that that was something that, was important to him, and despite his distrust of gods through Theros, he was able to kind of align himself with and genuflect before Oketra and be okay with that. And so the flavor text on Worship, by the way, Amy is aware of this, you guys might not be. Worship, one of my favorite cards in the history of Magic. I've been playing it. I've been playing with its Urza Saga printing since shortly after I started playing the game. I have a deck that uses it. It's nothing constructed. This is kitchen table. I have a kitchen table white deck that has used this card since I was in middle school. So, just FYI, my connection to this card. But the flavor text says, even after all that befell Amonkhet, Gideon never believed that his trust in Oketra was misplaced.
Nice.
Yeah. Moving on to more signature spellbook cards. And there are others that I will show Amy afterwards. There were just some that I wanted to reference and show to you here.
Well, and that just reminds me of when Oketra said to him, "Oh, you're one of mine."
Correct.
Like, that was just one of the coolest lines ever. Like, yet another time where the god is saying something that only the god really knows, you know?
Yeah.
And letting a lowly human in on it,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And it's typical to hear a god say, "Well, I see your death. You're no god," you know, but not in the way that Hazaret said it.
Right.
You know? Which was much more of an endearing way than you would expect, I guess. Weirdly.
Yeah.
But Oketra's line of, "Oh, you're one of mine," like, that's something that's atypical to hear a god say, you know?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you're used to hearing, like, "Come, my child, join my flock," like things
Right,
like that.
yeah.
But that's a lot more familiar and more of a kinship-based statement than gods tend to get, like you said, with lowly humans.
Right. And this one was just, it wasn't "join my flock" or whatever.
That's what
it
I mean,
was,
yeah.
you already are.
Yes. Yes.
Even though you don't even know who I am.
Yeah, exactly, because he had literally just met, he had just gotten to the plane, Oketra knew that, because she's a god, so, yeah. Yeah.
So, I that line resonates with me. I just think it's very cool.
Yeah. And so, the last main card that I want to show you, and then I want to end on a happy note for us,
Okay.
but the next card I want to show you is Rest in Peace.
Oh, okay.
And the flavor text just says, "I will keep watch."
Because he's taking the oath.
It's
statue.
a statue of him taking the oath. It is, if you look at this part of the art, it is on Theros, because that is the
appears to be.
Nyx effect.
Mm-hmm.
There's a zoomed in shot that I can show you some other time, but the kind of plinth or column or whatever that he is standing on, that the statue is placed on, shows some of his accomplishments on Theros.
In
it's
a freeze.
Yes, it's him and his irregulars fighting
Nice.
and dying and etc.
Nice.
And so, but it is a statue to Gideon, and it is the card Rest in Peace.
And it's perfect. It's placed inside, you know, what you would think it would be placed inside if you're thinking a Theros statue, right? But it's also gates.
Ha! I hadn't noticed that. God, you're good at this. We should do a show together. What do you think?
No, I don't think so.
That's fair. So yes, this is Rest in Peace. I loved this art. I think it's soul crushing, but it's also so heartwarming and
It's
uplifting
perfect.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's white, of course.
Yes. Yes. Well, Rest in Peace is a card that has existed.
I don't mean the card is white. I mean the statue is white.
Ah, yes. Well, marble.
Of course it's white.
Yes.
It would be white.
Yes.
But also it's white.
Yes, that is correct. Yes. So we have that, and now there's one last thing I want to show you on camera, just so that we can get this out of our systems. Because I talked about this. I went on I don't want to say a tirade because that makes it sound like I was angry, but I went off on Twitter today.
Oh no.
About this. No, in a good way.
Oh.
I mean, I rambled, but I talked happily.
Okay.
Because one of the cards that was reprinted in Gideon's spellbook, or signature spellbook Gideon, was the Black Blade Reforged from Dominaria. Now, Amy, let's see if you remember that. We literally just talked about this like a night or two ago, but I will not blame you if you forget his name. What was the name of the original wielder of the Black Blade, or the original card of the guy with the Black Blade?
I did forget.
Okay. His name is Dakin, or Dakin Blackblade.
Okay.
D-A-K-K-O-N.
Yes, of course.
And so the card name was Dakin Blackblade, which, again, is indicative of why it's so awesome that Gideon Blackblade is a card that now can exist.
Of course. Yep.
Amy, who drew the art for Dakin Blackblade?
Richard King Ferguson.
Why is that important to us?
Because we've met Richard Kane Ferguson.
We've met Richard Kane Ferguson. We will likely meet him again.
He'll likely be at Saratoga Comic-Con.
Which we are going to in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We go to about twice a year. And when we met him, we spoke to him about the Black Blade Reforged card.
We did.
Because...
And he had a print that you could buy of Dakin Blackblade.
Of Dakin Blackblade. But he had said that people had been contacting him when Black Blade Reforged came out, and they were like, "Oh, did you see the card? Did you draw it?" And he was like, "I didn't. I haven't really worked for Wizards in a long time."
Right.
In fact, he was, if I remember correctly, he was working on a comic book that he was that he was drawing himself, and it was kind of taking all of his focus and time. Yes, so he wasn't really able to, but also he kind of said he hadn't really been contacted, and it was something that, we wanted to keep in touch with him. He was such a cool guy. We bought a print from him. I put that picture up on Twitter, so if you're not following us on Twitter, @geek4allyt on Twitter, go check that out.
It is a beautiful print.
It is.
And he did sign it for us.
Yes. And I put up the picture of us with Richard Kane Ferguson, who looks like a damn rock star of a human being. Is an amazing man in person, but just the picture, he looks like a classic rock star. He's awesome. Well, Amy, for the Black Blade Reforged reprint, they got Richard Kane Ferguson.
Ah! Yes! Oh, it's so good. Zoom in.
Okay.
Oh, yeah! Oh, it's so Richard Kane Ferguson.
It is 100% his style.
Especially that guy at the bottom right-hand corner.
The stone guy, or the devil?
The stone guy.
Yeah.
He had a gorgeous print from... It wasn't a magic print, was it?
No, I don't believe so.
That, oh my god, that guy is practically straight from that print.
Mm-hmm. If you guys can ever get... I don't work for Saratoga Comic-Con. I said it in my tweets. We are not sponsored to say any of these things.
Right.
And I cannot promise you that Richard Kane Ferguson will automatically, no questions asked, be at a Saratoga Comic-Con if you come to one. But I can tell you that we've been to 3 of them. He has been to all 3. And when we go to the next one in 2 weeks, if for whatever reason he is not there, we will let you all know. But if he is there, we will definitely go talk to him because, my God, he has a new piece of art out for Magic the Gathering.
Oh my God, it's so cool.
So you better believe we're going to go talk to him. But the other thing is, and I said this on Twitter, if you get the opportunity, if you're anywhere near Saratoga, come show this man some respect.
Yeah.
Because... a lot of people online were like, "Oh my God, Richard Kane Ferguson's doing the art. How amazing is that?" And yet, when we saw him, he felt, at least I got the impression, I don't think he ever said these words to me, but I got the impression that he felt a little bit removed from the community these days because of the fact that he had not done art for the cards in a while, but that he still loved the Magic fans. He still appreciated us. He loved sitting and talking to us, or at least seemed very, very, I can't read the man's mind, but he seemed very receptive to sitting and talking to us for a good long time.
Yeah, we talked for too long.
Yeah, oh, probably. I'm sure he got annoyed by the end, but he was very gracious about it. He was a very awesome dude. So I encourage you, if you get the opportunity, to see him.
This is an incredible art.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I'm genuinely, for me personally, I'm really looking forward to seeing him, shaking his hand and talking to him again for too long about this and anything and everything else. Because a lot of people, when Gideon Blackblade was revealed, a ton of people were like, oh, how awesome would it be if we got a variant art of Gideon Blackblade done by Richard Kane Ferguson, and then a day or two later this art's revealed.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And again, a lot of people talking with a lot of happiness in reminiscing about the old art and now being excited about the new art. So props to you, Richard Kane Ferguson.
And this is way better than the original, even.
The original what?
Doc and
Blackblade, yes.
Like, this is so much cooler because
Yeah.
there's so much more happening in this picture.
Correct.
It's
well, and again,
just cool.
it's showing the reforging of the blade. Because, like,
Yeah.
I saw a lot of people being like, the hell is happening in this art? Which, again, I think is also very Richard Kane Ferguson.
Right, yeah.
There's, like, a lot going on, and you could sit and probably pull this apart for a very long time.
Right.
I mean, I just kind of noticed, like,
And
what's this
that
over
is
here?
very
Like,
Richard Kane
is
Ferguson.
this a hand? Like, I can't quite, like, again, we could, I'm not actually
It's
asking
a
you that question.
forge.
Here? This part
Yeah.
here? Okay. So, again, like, there could probably be a very long time taken looking at all these things and et cetera, but that's for another time. This video has almost certainly gone on long enough, but I wanted to be able to utilize this time to show a true reaction to a lot of these moments that depict the end of this story. I'm more so now than I was already looking forward to reading the book.
Yes.
Because I want to have those questions answered of why is the gem gone? What did it do to allow Ugin to trap Bolus there? How did Ugin get Bolus there if he had his spark removed? Like, there's a lot of questions.
There are a lot of questions.
Yes. Which is a very good thing because the cards came first. I think I would have much preferred the story before the cards because the cards had a way of spoiling the story, whereas the story probably wouldn't have spoiled any of the cards per se.
Well, and we've always felt that way in the past.
Correct.
But for this one, I almost feel like there's so much story that I feel like for once it's not too spoiled. Does that make sense?
That's fair because there are a lot of questions remaining.
Right. Even though there's a lot of big things that have been spoiled. Like some pretty some pretty big things that affect the story in such a big way.
Yes.
And yet I still don't feel like it's too spoiled where reading it is going to feel pointless.
Right. So I will say I'm probably going to end this video here just because it's been long enough, and there is going to be a second video kind of talking about
this art. This is incredible.
I'm glad that it's left up here then for us to keep looking at. It's really cool. We're going to be back to talk about this. I don't know when this video is even coming out, so I can't tell you when we will be back, but we're going to be back, and I want to talk about something that I'm not as happy with when we come back, just something that frustrates me. And we've had those JaAR episodes before, and I don't like doing them, but I think if it's something that I feel strongly enough about, then it's something that I really want to do. For now, to go a little behind the scenes, it's time for Amy and I to go to bed. But I also think that this video, for what we were trying to do, is concluded. I think we can go on the JaAR set and talk about that, the next thing I want to talk about. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and retroactively say that this was an episode of JaAR where I wasn't even on camera. Hi. But yeah, I think this can be another episode of JaAR because we just reviewed the story, arguably. Okay. So,
that's so cool. We just reviewed the story by looking at cards.
Yes, exactly. Which is a very unique way of doing it, but also, I mean,
it's the way it really should always have been able to be done.
And it is something that I will give credit where credit is due. The Wizards staff, like Blake Rasmussen specifically, and some others as well, I've heard talking about it, have said that they are looking at this preview season as a test and a way that they will possibly be trying to do something like this in the future, or more things like this in the future, to preview things, because this worked out so well.
Yeah.
For doing this in the proper order, right? You didn't have Imprisoned in the Moon come out as the first card, right? Or in this case, Prison Realm come out as the first card that was revealed, and then you go, oh, I guess Bolus got beaten and desparked. So we now know what happens, right? They waited until literally the last day, which, sure, you had people for days and days going, where's Oketra? Why hasn't Oketra been spoiled yet? What's going on with Oketra? Well, there was a reason for it, and now we see why. And, you know, we get to find out the big death. Now, again, I'm very much looking forward to the story, because what happened to all the sparks? Do they go back to their owners? Are there going to be new planeswalkers from Ravnica? Like, is Lavinia going to be sparked? Is Rakdos going to be sparked? Like, are all these people going to get sparks that, like, and now Domri has to stay on Ravnica forever because he was desparked there, or Dak, or whatever? Are they dead if they get, like, are they desparked because they were killed? Because clearly Bolus wasn't.
Right.
So, is that because he was a god?
Maybe.
As I said, I'm gonna stop rambling. But
there's a lot of questions.
There are, and we will work on that in future episodes of JaAR, as I said. And since we didn't do it in the beginning, JaAR, for those of you that may be new, stands for Joe
and Amy
Review. And I want to thank you all so much for joining us. Amy, I'm going to let you do it again, because Amy specifically, I want to point out to you, Amy had no coaching whatsoever on what she was seeing here, and she pulled out some things from looking at the art and the cards for 5 seconds that I didn't pick up on having looked at them all day. So I think that's a very good example of Amy doing a fantastic job at showing off her.
Hashtag Vorthos Pride.
And you guys can join her and myself in doing that by sounding off in the comments, telling us what you thought.
Yes.
We really, really appreciate it. That is the way that you can join us in doing that.
Talk about story. Talk about the art.
Yes.
We're all about it.
Yes. Your opinions on the preview season, what you thought, how it went, your favorite card or story moment from the set. Are you more excited or less excited to read the book now? Any and all things. That's what the comment section is for. Let us know.
Please.
Thank you all so much for joining us for another retroactive episode of JaAR without me even realizing it. From the Geek for All YouTube channel, I have been Joe.
And I'm Amy.
And as we always say, guys, in whichever video of ours you watch next, we will see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.